8 psychological tricks to win any argument. How many times have we scrolled through a social media post and seen people arguing about what they think is right according to them? Pretty easily about 100 times. In the modern era of social media and technology, the art of winning an argument has become an admirable social skill to have. Winning arguments isn't strictly restricted to family. It can be an impressive skill to demonstrate at your workplace too. Because who wouldn't want to have the upper hand at work? Quite simply, we all do. So how can you win any argument without much difficulty? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. Today, we will discuss about 8 psychological tricks to win any argument. But before we start, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more amazing videos. So, let's get started. Nobody enjoys the feeling of insult and embarrassment when you are being made to look ignorant in front of others during an argument. So naturally, we resort to anger to help curb our outrage in the situation. This reaction in reality doesn't do you any favors whatsoever, as you not only begin losing logical ground, but you also come off as agitated and someone unsure of his facts and figures. If these are habits you demonstrate in arguments, don't worry, we've got you covered. So how does psychology come into play in arguments? Every activity we take part in is closely linked with our emotions, feelings, and mental growth. This can also be referred to as the psychological aspect of certain things. In a similar fashion, our arguments and arguing abilities leave a lasting impact on us psychologically. The general view around arguments is that they bring out the worst in us and arouses negative feelings and emotions, which can be very true at times. But on the other hand, it can have many positive outlooks on one's friendship and relationships. Similarly, getting involved in arguments can also prove to be a motivating and energizing experience, especially when you get into heated arguments. You may feel the blood rush to your face, which is an indication that you are physically pumped up. This way, you have more energy in your body, and with every passing second, you become more and more determined to prove your point, further showing your motivation. And with these 8 psychological tricks at your hand, you can win arguments with ease. So let's talk about them one by one. Trick 8. Remain calm. First of all, it is important for you to keep your emotions in check, because the more agitated you get, the lesser the chances of winning an argument. So the calmer you remain, the more riled up your opponent will get. This way, your opponent will be showcased as the aggressor. Don't worry about looking weak by maintaining your cool, because this trait shows you are a level-headed person who can exercise self-control. It is important to regulate your emotions and avoid getting too angry for you as well as your opponent's well-being. Your aim should be to prove your point, to reach a consensus along with your partner, rather than antagonizing each other. Therefore, it is important to adopt a healthy approach when involved in an argument. Trick 7. Maintain an open-minded approach. Being defensive in an argument will assure that you lose an argument. So the best way to approach an argument is, if you want to win it psychologically, you will have to be open-minded. Let your opponent speak. This way, you may resolve the argument without actually having to argue much. Also, by listening to your opponent, you will ensure that you have thoughtfully reviewed their perspective. Hence, your offered solution is the best outcome of the argument. Similarly, by being open to suggestions and alternative points of view, you can also convince your partner to come on board with your opinion without having to validate your side of the argument much. Trick 6. Push your opponent to react. If you want to further exasperate your opponent, you can do that by pretending that the argument isn't affecting you that much. You could smirk, chuckle, or shake your head. These actions or reactions tend to drive people insane. The more emotionally exasperated the opponent gets, the more likely they are to start making absurd claims and become defensive of their opinions. Hence, you will have more room to aptly point out the flaws in the argument, which will eventually let you emerge victoriously in the end. Trick 5. Clarity is crucial. Avoid misunderstandings between yourself and your partner. This is why it is necessary for you to establish a common ground or key factors in the argument that you can agree upon. Otherwise, it is highly unlikely that the argument will be fruitful and will end in disagreement. To avoid further confusion by stating facts that are incomprehensible to your opponent, you will only further elongate the argument. Because some people aren't the brightest, they need to be spoon-fed. So try your best always to give short, precise, and clear responses. Try not to overmention facts or figures, because they can overwhelm your opponent and, as a result, hinder their ability to make decisions. In the end, people make their own decisions. You just have to push them to agree with you. Trick 4. Mirror the posture of your opponent. The popular tactic people adopt when arguing is to stare down their opponent, which may be successful in some situations. It may seem okay, but not always. Psychologically, if you want to win an argument, it is likely to have the opposite effect on your opponent, as they are going to resist your attempt to persuade them. Do your best to not intentionally stare at your opponent. Keep a check on your body language. The more relaxed you appear physically, the less resistance there is going to be from the opposition, which will eventually work in your favor. To appear non-threatening, try to mirror the standing or sitting position of your opponent, as it will put them at ease. Also, avoid holding anything in your hand or getting distracted. You may not want to stare at your opponent, but try not to look away from them either. Trick 3. Undermine your opponent with logic. To have an edge in your argument, you could take the help of logic. Build your argument by linking up the possible effects and outcomes, cleverly to showcase your point of view to be correct. In a similar way to building a good narrative, cement your opinion by bringing in logic about how one idea or event leads to another. In this manner, your opponent's point of view will be undermined, and you will have a higher chance of winning the argument. Trick 2. Know your opponent. What is a better way to win an argument than by using someone's personality flaws and weaknesses against them? None. It is important to know what flaws and weaknesses you can exploit of your opponent so that you have an advantage in the argument. By turning their arguments back against them, your opponent or partner will get confused about what they are arguing for. This way, they will get flustered and unsure of their stance and are likely to yield to your perspective, so it can be a particularly interesting trick to implement in an argument against a family member or a close friend. Trick 1. Be confident. To be heard and considered as a worthy opponent, your confidence is vital. You must not falter or second-guess yourself, because that will allow your opponent to question your perspective. So make claims with the belief that you are correct. The more confident and staunch you are with your side of the argument, the weaker your opponent will get. Your confidence will ensure that psychologically you have a commanding position in the argument. Moreover, not only validate your argument confidently, but rather denounce and contradict your opponent's arguments also with equal confidence. This way, you will make them appear weak and lead them to second-guess themselves. Hence, you will have more or less won the argument. In conclusion, winning arguments isn't just about who's right and who's wrong. Add a couple of psychological aspects along with tricks, and it becomes a completely different ballgame. Furthermore, it isn't everyone's cup of tea to be concrete about their facts, but if you know how to psychologically influence other people, to some extent, you have already won the argument. Therefore, it is not only important to have the knowledge and understanding of the topic or issue that the argument is based on. The skill to implement when and what to say is also equally important. But at the end of the day, not every argument should be pursued so that one of the parties wins. Some arguments never come to a conclusion, while others end with a mutual understanding. So it is important to take part in healthy and positive arguments because it will help us grow mentally. And if you feel an argument is becoming fiery and intense, it is best to avoid arguing any further because winning isn't always the solution. Having said that, keep these psychological tricks up your sleeve for the next argument and see how easily you can sway the argument in your favor. And this brings us to the end of the video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our channel, and we will get back with more amazing content for you. And thank you for watching.